Bonjour tout le monde, quelle
Good
belle journée
afternoon,
aujourd'hui.
everyone. What a
À la
lovely
fin de la
day.
dernière élection,
At the end of the last election, Canadians gave us a clear mandate to put an end to the pandemic and move forward with the priorities of all Canadians from all across this country. And behind me, I am enormously pleased to present the team that will get this work done. Thank you, my friends.
of a team of familiar faces and new faces that are ready to put all their strengths, all their hard work towards delivering for Canadians in the coming years, continue to deliver on real change. There's a few things we know are top of mind for Canadians. First of all, ending the pandemic for good. Canada, as we all know, is a world leader on vaccination rates, but we're not out of this yet. We need to continue to remain vigilant, continue to support people struggling in places across the country, and continue to deliver on the priorities we laid out a few weeks ago on ending this pandemic. Whether it's vaccination mandates for federal public servants, whether it's moving forward to make sure that anyone getting on a plane or a train is fully vaccinated, we've moved forward on those. We continue to move forward with the provinces and territories on rolling out and paying for proof of vaccination certificates for both domestic use in the provinces, but internationally as well. And we're also going to be moving forward with legislation to better protect healthcare workers from harassment and intimidation on their way into work. faut garder les familles en sécurité.
We need to keep families safe and avoid lockdowns, not just for mental health, not just for physical health, but also for the economic recovery. And that is the other large priority that Canadians want us to focus on, building a strong Canadian economy that works for everyone, that's inclusive, that meets the challenges of the recovery with imagination and creativity, but above all, support for industries and people and creating jobs for the future. And that is why we are here to continue to support the industries and sectors and workers that have been hit hard by the pandemic while encouraging an economic recovery in other sectors.
Continuing with a straightforward promise we made to Canadians many, many months ago, that we would have your backs as long as it took, as much as it took. And while we are still there to support the hard-hit industries from this pandemic and workers in those hard-hit lockdown areas, we know that part of having people's backs is making sure our economy keeps growing. We've had good numbers already. We committed to 1 million new jobs back in the last throne speech over a year ago. We've delivered on that. We're now recovered 100% of the jobs we lost during this pandemic. The U.S. has only recovered about 3/4 of the jobs lost during the pandemic. But we know there's more to do. From tackling the housing crisis, making sure that affordability remains top of mind for everyone working to serve Canadians, and continuing to move forward on historic childcare agreements to bring families $10 a day childcare right across the country. We still have work to do in New Brunswick, Alberta, and Ontario, as well as Northwest Territories and Nunavut, but I know we're going to get it done because families deserve that support. The same focus and urgency we brought to the fight against COVID, we have to bring to the other enormous crisis Canada and the world is facing, that is climate change. We know that fighting against climate change and preventing biodiversity loss are key for Canadians and for people around the world. That's what we're going to continue doing here at home while we head to Glasgow and encourage and challenge the world to do even more, go even faster, as Canada has. Faut s'assurer.
We need to make sure that the oil and gas industry stops increasing its emissions and starts reducing them, while supporting workers in these industries to help find new ways to work, new jobs and new careers for them, for their families, and for their communities. We'll be here for this transition that will be underway across the planet. We will continue to be here for these people.
Our economy, while we move forward on fighting climate change, we need to include reconciliation with Indigenous peoples in every job we take, in every step of the way. Last week, I visited the Kamloops Tesowekbuk, and it was an extraordinary moment to hear from them, to talk about the path forward, and to recommit ourselves to doing even more. We've done a lot, but there's so much more work to be done. We've lifted close to 120 long-term boil water advisories over the past years. We've built or renovated close to 200 schools. We've passed historic legislation like the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People to move forward in partnership. But we all know, and this entire team is committed to doing even more, even faster in partnership with Indigenous peoples. Nous allons continuer.
We will continue to do the work to deliver for the middle class, for families, for seniors, for people. We need to build a fair, greener, more prosperous Canada, and that is exactly what we will do as a team.
A team with experience, commitment, passion to serve this country. I can't wait to keep moving forward with them for everyone. Merci beaucoup tout le monde.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Merci beaucoup. Le Premier ministre va prendre 20 minutes de questions. Les ministres vont rester disponibles pour répondre à d'autres questions par la suite. The PM will be taking 20 minutes of question. Minister will remain available for more question after, starting with mic 1 with Ashley Berg from CBC.
Good afternoon, Prime Minister. What message do you want to send to Canada's energy sector and the appointment of Stephen Guilbeault as Environment Minister when he's built his past career around opposing pipelines and the oil and gas sector developments?
There is not much of a debate anymore about whether or not climate change is real. There are some corners of the public sphere where you still see that debate, but for most Canadians, and indeed most Albertans, we know that we need to look towards the future. We need to bring people along, support them in the jobs they need to have, but also lower our emissions so we get to net zero. Indeed, the largest energy companies in this country are committed to net zero by 2050. And the way to do that is to all of us work together. We have a number of strong ministers, including Minister Guilbeault, Minister Wilkinson, and others, dedicated to the fight against climate change and dedicated to making sure that all Canadians have a brighter future because of it. We will be committed to working with Albertans, to working with people in the energy sector across the country as we build the kind of future everyone wants for their kids and grandkids, with both good jobs, prosperity, and cleaner air and fresh water. This is something we're committed to as a country, something future generations are demanding of us right now, and something we will continue to tackle with extreme and extraordinary ambition.
What specifically do you expect from Anita Anand in her new role as Defence Minister? Why make this change to this portfolio? And as well, what changes will you make to ensure that she succeeds in the tasks that you've given her?
I think one of the things Canadians have seen over the past year and a half is, as Minister of Vaccines, Public Service and Procurement, Minister Anand has been extraordinarily effective at supporting Canadians through a very difficult time. That's part of the job of the Canadian Armed Forces, to be there to support Canadians through difficult times, whether it be floods, whether it be international conflicts. We have seen the Canadian Armed Forces step up time and time again to save lives, to defend our values, to defend our priorities. At the same time, we know there is a crisis within the culture in our Canadian Armed Forces, and the women and men who serve in the Armed Forces deserve better support, deserve a shift in the kind of governance that they have. And one of the things that people will be learning about Anita Anand in the coming months is that she is a world-class expert in governance, with decades of professional experience that she will bring to bear to make sure that the Canadian Armed Forces, the leadership and the operations thereof, are worthy of the extraordinary women and men who choose to serve in our armed forces.
Prochaine question, micro 2.
Oui, bonjour.
Good afternoon. You appointed a Quebecer to the health portfolio. You knew about what Mr. Legault thinks about interference in the health sector. So what message are you sending to Mr. Legault? I heard very clearly from Quebecers and all Canadians what they want from their public health system, what they want from their governments. They want systems that work. They want results. They want more support for mental health, more access to family doctors. They want an end to wait times. Our approach will be very simple and very direct. We know that it takes more investments in health across the country, but we will ensure that this yields results for Canadians across the country, including Quebecers. And I'm eager to start discussions with on this with the provinces. As people have seen, we were there to invest billions of dollars to support the health systems during the pandemic. We will be here to build a stronger health systems across the country, and we will do this in partnership by keeping at the heart of what we are doing the results that Canadians deserve to receive. You didn't say what it means to appoint a Quebecer. Is Mr. Duclos the person to do this job? Answer. I think it would be an error, Lena, to think that only Quebecers are worried about our health system. We have Canadians all across this country who are concerned by what they see in our health systems, and I chose someone who is extraordinary, who has shown his mettle at the Treasury Board, for families and communities, and in his career at Laval University as an economist. He showed his problem-solving abilities, so I'm very eager to see him in communication not only with the government of Quebec, but also the governments of Ontario and BC and governments across the country. We are a federal government, and I try to appoint the right people to the right places, including Jean-Yves Duclos at the Department of Health. And he will make a difference in Canadians' lives.
Good afternoon, Prime Minister David Baxter with Global News. What sort of specific direction will you be giving Minister Anand in crafting and implementing an independent mechanism to report military sexual misconduct?
Well, I want to highlight, first of all, that over the past years, even though there have been real challenges in shifting the culture at the Department of National Defence and the Canadian Armed Forces, Minister Sajjan has consistently been someone who has been there to fight for the women and men who serve in our armed forces and to push back against the culture that excludes, that marginalizes people. And I thank him for his leadership and his service there. And I'm excited about seeing the next steps that will be brought forward by Minister Anand. As you know, there are already a number of processes in place from General Carignan heading up a specific unit in the armed forces to draw together all concerns and resources, to Madame Arbour, who will be delivering a landmark report with the next steps on how we truly transform the culture of the military in deep and significant ways. There have been a number of changes made over the years. None of it has been sufficient. None of it has been worthy of the extraordinary men and women who serve in our armed forces. And that's why we're going to continue to do the necessary work to make sure that our armed forces are not only capable of continuing to step up and deliver for Canadians, but they're also going to be protecting all of those members within the armed forces from discrimination or harassment.
And now that the new cabinet has been sworn in, when will you decide whether or not Admiral Art MacDonald will return to his responsibilities as Chief of the Defence Staff?
In the decisions we make around leadership in the armed forces, every step of the way, we will be placing survivors and the women and men who serve in the armed forces at the center of all those decisions. And that decision is currently underway.
Thank you. Next question. Prochaine question.
TVA. Why did you, Mr. Prime Minister, why did you exclude Marc Garneau from cabinet? Answer. First of all, I would like to thank Marc for his years of service in politics as Minister of Transportation and Foreign Affairs, and also for his remarkable service throughout his career, whether it was in the Canadian Armed Forces, whether it was obviously as an astronaut, as a scientist. We have all benefited from his work and service. He will continue to represent his constituents. He will continue to be part of our team as long as we can have him. At the same time, I wish to highlight how happy I am to be able to present a renewed team composed of new faces that are part of our cabinet, which will be able to contribute enormously to the next two challenges we will face as a country. It's never easy to build a good cabinet for the times, but I think that the team I am surrounded by today is the right one for the current context and the years to come. Mr. Trudeau, will he receive another position, perhaps as ambassador? And this is now the fifth foreign affairs minister in 6 years. What message does that send? Answer, I think people see how much Canada is involved internationally in multilateralism, in the large issues like the fight against climate change or fighting authoritarianism and the challenges that are posed to democracy around the world. We will continue to be a strong present partner, and I'm very eager to work with Minister Joly on the international checkerboard to continue to advance Canadians' priorities. Next question.
Jeff Peltier from Nunatsiaq News. Over the weekend in Baker Lake, Nunavut, residents were protesting the closure of an elder care home. And there's also a petition going around calling for elder care services in every community in Nunavut. What will your government do to ensure that elders in Nunavut have that care so that they don't have to fly south here to Ottawa for care?
I recently, just a few days ago, had a conversation with Premier Savikatak of Nunavut to talk about the work that we need to continue doing together. He certainly brought up the challenges faced by elders and others in the community, and we will continue to be there as a partner on both urgent issues like the water issue faced by Iqaluit over the past week, but also with investments in infrastructure, in housing, in support for vulnerable seniors right across the territory and indeed across the country.
And where does this priority lie for your new Minister of Seniors?
I'm very pleased to have our youngest member of Cabinet, Kamal Kara, be the Minister for Seniors. She will bring to it both her experience, her passion for serving, for caring for others that she's always brought as a nurse and a parliamentarian, and make sure that seniors from coast to coast to coast are well protected. I can also say that our Minister for the North, Dan Vandal, will be there as he continues to look for greater investments, greater supports for seniors and for everyone. Minister Vandal has been a long time active member of our team in the North and will now have extra responsibilities for the Northern Development Agency that will allow him to do even more for vulnerable populations in the North.
Next question, Mike 2.
Hi, Mr. Trudeau. It's Annie Bergeron-Oliver with CTV National News. On the First Nations child welfare case, will you be appealing the federal court decision forcing the federal government to pay for the harms done to First Nations children and their families?
This is an extremely important issue and an extremely difficult one as well. We are committed as a government to reconciliation, and that means we are committed to compensating Indigenous children, now adults, who were harmed by Child and Family Services. That is what we've been consistent on since the very beginning. We are also committed to ending the system of Child and Family Services that continues to remove kids from their communities, to give them unacceptable barriers, outcomes, and situations that no Canadian child should have to face. I am working extremely closely with the impacted ministers. We're reaching out to others. We are looking very, very carefully at what the right path is forward to ensure that, yes, we can compensate people who've been harmed in the past, but that we also have the ability to put an end to the ongoing harms that are continuing to happen in Child and Family Services across the country. Getting that balance right is at the heart of the path forward on reconciliation and the decision that we will be taking in the coming days on the path forward on the CHRT ruling.
With the respect, it's a fairly simple question. Will you be appealing, yes or no? I'm going to point out you did not answer that. However, I will move on. Do you intend on leading the Liberal Party into the next election?
Yes.
Next question, mic 1. Next question, mic 1.
Hi, Prime Minister. Stephanie Taylor with the Canadian Press. Why make such a big overhaul to your cabinet when the election delivered nearly identical results for you? Were you unhappy with the job it was doing?
On the contrary, I think one of the things we saw very clearly in this election was that Canadians are expecting big things to be done by Parliament and by this government. Whether it's continuing to step up even more and faster on the fight against climate change, whether it's moving forward in even more concrete and tangible ways on the path of reconciliation, or whether it's looking at what it really means to build back better and ensure that as we grow our economy, everyone gets included. These are no small tasks. These are the things that Canadians expect us to do, and with a refreshed and reinvigorated team around me, I'm really excited about what we're going to be able to accomplish for Canadians, and I know that this team is raring to go.
Why is Minister Sajjan still part of your cabinet when there are others who lost their posts, when it was his handling of sexual misconduct in the military that was roundly criticized as being inadequate?
Minister Sajjan has fought all his life for Canadian values, for Canadian opportunities, and for fairness and equity. As someone who rose through the ranks of a challenging culture in our military and has consistently pushed back against the old boys network, I don't think anyone can be surprised at the kind of pushback he saw as he was trying to bring about changes over the past number of years. His passion to share Canadian values, not just through the work of the military, but around the world, will be exceedingly useful for Canada and our impact in the world as Minister of International Development. And I'm very excited to see him continue to build on the great relationships he's had around the world in getting things done for vulnerable populations and stepping up for women and girls in this new role. I'm also very excited about him taking the helm of the brand new Pacific Economic Development Agency. We've set up a standalone agency to support economic development and small businesses in British Columbia. And under Minister Sajjan's leadership, I know it's going to create tremendous opportunities for everyone in British Columbia.
Prochaine question, micro 2.
Next question, mic 2. Radio-Canada. Mr. Trudeau, this is the second time that you are presenting a cabinet in a minority context. What will be different with the team that you struck this time? Answer. I think that Canadians expect this Parliament to work together. Canadians also expect that we deliver on our promises, and that's exactly what this team will do. With the passion and expertise in many fields, with the experience of many years of service, with a new breath from our newcomers, we will work with all parliamentarians to concretely deliver on our priorities, whether it's to put an end to the pandemic, to fight climate change, to work on reconciliation, and above all, to rebuild a stronger economy for everyone. This is the team to do so. Question. You said you wanted to move faster. How is that justified when you're returning 2 months after the election? Answer. I think what people want on vaccination mandates in the federal public service, whether it's for planes and trains, whether it's for vaccination certificates, whether it's for assistance for Canadians or investments to continue the economic recovery. We have done a lot of work already, and we will continue to do so. Parliament has great priorities on which we will deliver next month, and I know that we are all very eager to get down to work.
Hello, Mr. Trudeau. Mina Karaman-Wilms, the Globe and Mail. 3 of your previous cabinet ministers are not here this time around. Could you explain why you demoted Bardish Chagger, Jim Carr, and Mark Garneau from cabinet? If you could comment on each specific case, please.
I think everyone knows that cabinet making requires difficult choices. Bringing forward people who've served, giving new challenges to folks who haven't, and looking at the right balance of regional diversity, experiences to deliver. And what I have right now as an extraordinary team that is reinvigorated, that is ready to step up and fight for the big things for Canadians is a team that I'm very, very much looking forward to working with.
Will any of them be given a new assignment outside of cabinet? For instance, there's speculation that maybe an ambassador position is a possibility. Is anything like that under consideration?
I'm incredibly pleased to be here today to present the team that is going to deliver on big priorities for Canadians over the coming years. Whether it's fighting against climate change, whether it's moving forward on reconciliation even faster, whether it's building an economy that works for everyone while we end with this pandemic once and for all, this team we're announcing today is the team to do that. There will be, of course, plenty more announcements that we'll be making over the coming weeks and months about other things we'll be doing, about other ways we'll be tackling big challenges and other people to do that. Today, this cabinet is the news of the day.
Thank you. This is what ends the press conference for the Prime Minister.
Merci beaucoup tout le monde. Bonne
Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great day.